Hello and welcome to this London Embroidery School Stitch Along. Happy first day of December. I hope you're having a good start to your Advent, and I feel like you've made a good choice by joining me here today to work on the very first tree of the Advent bauble design that we released on our website. So I thought I'd just have a little chat to you guys whilst I stitch this very first tree, and answer any questions you might have about embroidery bits. Doesn't have to be about this design specifically, can be about anything really that you fancy asking me about. But I am delighted to be able to bring this to you today. I've been looking forward to this pretty much all year. I'm going to say I've been working towards Christmas all year, and so now to be able to kind of bring you guys these products and share them and see how you're getting along with them is just such good fun. So I should tell you that, as I mentioned, this is a tree a day bauble. It makes a bauble in the end, so you embroider it as a flat pattern and then you can make it into a 3D Christmas decoration for yourself, which looks a little bit like this. I'm sure you've seen it. You guys are all on our page a lot. I see you all interacting with us and chatting away and telling me your thoughts on the embroidery bits that we release, and that is just wonderful. So if you fancy sharing any of those on here today, do feel free to comment in the comments below. Any comments made that I managed to see whilst I'm stitching, I will read out. Oh, let's hope it refocuses. There we go. I will read out just so, because we re-release the recording of this onto our YouTube channel as well, and the comments don't kind of remain on screen when you record them. So I like to read them out so that they stay there for posterity. So I just wanted to show you also the PDF itself, which looks a little bit like so. You get a little taster of it on the product. So you have the contents, equipment and materials that you'll need. It is a PDF only product, so you can get started with it straight away today. You can source your own materials and use up what you've already got. And it's written for absolute beginners, although if you're not an absolute beginner, you can absolutely enjoy this as well and take it in your own direction. But if you are a beginner, we talk you through all the things you need to know. So, even down to framing up and, like real embroidery basics, how to split your skein and that sort of thing, finishing off. A guide to some of the stitches that we would suggest that you use. Some fun ones, some fancy ones, lines and fills. And then some inspiration if you need it. So you really can stitch each of the trees your own way. But if you need some ideas to get you started off, then there are some there. And then we go through how to make it into the bauble from being a flat piece of completed embroidery fabric into a 3D item. And finally, just a few more photos to hopefully help you along the way. We've got a load of notes throughout the whole PDF of extra thoughts that we have on the products that might help you along. So if you are an absolute beginner and you feel you need a little bit more guidance, then we've got lots of bits in the notes there to kind of spur you along. Make sure that you feel like you know what you're doing, and if you don't feel like you know what you're doing, where to look for that support that you might need. A great place to do that would be our YouTube channel. We have a load of videos on there if you want to watch someone stitching and doing the things that you will be doing in the PDF. So that might be, things like threading up the needle you might need help with. And we have a video that includes 4 different ways that you can thread up the needle and, go forward using the one that works for you. That's very much the purpose of it, is that there is more than one way to do it and you can just do what suits you best. I've decided to go with a stem stitch for the lines of this tree today and treat it just as an outline. It is day 1 of the design itself. So it's a fairly simple tree, just to kind of ease you in and start you off. But I've gone for a bit more of a punchy colour palette today than we did in the original sample, which is quite, traditional. So you can see my colours below. I'm going to be bringing in this blue and the orange, as well as this quite cool bluey green for the outside edge. I did a running stitch for the original sample, as it is the most basic of the stitches. And that was really just to ease you guys in. But as I say, this PDF is written so that hopefully anyone who has the inclination to try a little embroidery project could have a go at it. But you don't have to be confined to just being an absolute novice to enjoy it. And the beautiful thing about that is that we've already had some people who simply couldn't wait to get started with their baubles and have in fact finished them, which is wonderful to see, that enthusiasm coming through from you guys. And so, we've had a couple of pictures that have been shared, and that just gives us so much pleasure to see how you guys have made it your own. Two that really spring to mind was, I shared them both in the stories, and actually if you want to go and see them yourselves, they are on our highlights reel in the Made by You section. One was by Marnetta59, who chose a fabric underneath that already had snowflakes on it, and then she added the Christmas trees on the top, and they're just, it's just so sweet. Really, really beautiful. Also had one that was shared today, so that's still in our live stories from today, from Claire_Ketterman, and she used hers as kind of an exploration of the colour green, just using greens as her colour palette, and introducing some beads as well, which we really loved. They really give it that little pop of detail. So even in only those, say, 3 examples, if you include our original example, you can see how much variety you can make within this one design and really make it your own. Now, I'm curious to know, those of you who are perhaps stitching along with me at home, and are doing, day one of your Advent bauble today, what's the plan with your colours? Are you using this as an opportunity to use up, whatever bits of scrap threads you might have left over from previous projects during the course of the year? Or have you got a colour palette for your tree that you are then matching your bauble colour palette to? Do you theme your Christmas trees? I'd be interested to know. Or is the theme just Christmas? So I can see we've had a couple of comments. So I'm just going to have a quick look through those. If I've missed anyone. So we've got Caddy Williams 1, who says she's on day 16. Very exciting. I'm glad to see that you sort of ploughed on with your Christmas trees and are getting through them. I hope you're enjoying it. I do think it's a really fun little PDF just to enjoy as something to do each day. We don't, get that much time generally to just kind of relax into a project like this. And so I do wonder if some people might like to use this as a way to introduce themselves to perhaps next year's resolution could be to try and do a little bit of daily stitching each day. Treat it as like a mindfulness exercise or a screen-free exercise time, as we all spend so much time on screens now. I think it's quite useful to have something that encourages you to step away from that. And perhaps this could be your entry gateway into doing a little bit of stitching each day. There's an idea. That sounds like a pretty good resolution. I might try and take that up myself. because even I don't get to do daily stitching. But each of these trees is aimed to be probably an average of, say, 20 to 40 minutes to stitch out the tree. Now, that will vary with the choice of stitch that you choose to use, how many strands of the skein you're planning on using. That will affect how long it takes to fill the shape, or if you're just doing an outline or a fill. There are lots of variables on how long each tree will take you, but because you can strive your own path with this design, you aren't following a particular prescribed outcome to each design. You can choose, how detailed, how complicated you want to make each tree as to what you've got on that day. If you've only got 10 minutes, then, go for a very simple stitch, go for a running stitch, and just make sure that you go ahead and do the stitching. Or if you've got a bit more time, if you've got a spare hour, say, where you find yourself, comfortable in front of the TV perhaps, or, just having a chat with your partner or family, then you could also use that time to do that little bit of stitching and perhaps try something a bit more complicated, something that will take that little bit more time, but as and when you've got that time. So I'm just working on a stem stitch at the moment, which you'll see gives you a really nice sort of like twisted line effect to the stitching. Every stitch leans on the stitch before it and the stitch afterwards, which is what gives it that kind of twisted rope-like look. It's one of my personal favourites, and I think it creates a really rich effect. I'm also going to do a little bit of an explore between the different weight effects you can get with your line, because at the moment I'm working with 3 strands of the skein for this outside edge, and then inside for the next one in I'm going to be working with 2 strands and then 1 strand only in the middle, as we've got this sort of concentric internal shapes. So you can see it all comes along quite quickly. As it is a PDF only kit, you can, as well as choosing your colours and your stitches along the different designs, you can use it to hopefully complement the parts that are most important to you of a project. So if you want to use this as a project to kind of, recycle some waste materials from previous projects, I think it's a great one for that, because you only need quite a little bit of thread in comparison to quite a lot of other projects for each tree. So you could use it to just use up all those scraps. Equally, any offcuts from your threads when you're embroidering, keep a hold of those during the course of this project, because they can go on to be part of the stuffing which you use to fill out the bauble. So it's quite a nice way to make it a lesser waste project than it otherwise could be. In the same vein, you could have a little look through, if you've got a fabric stash, what fabric from that stash you might be able to harness for this project. Have you already got something that would be appropriate rather than buying something new? Or if you don't have a fabric stash, have a think about, are there any household fabrics that you could repurpose for this? Have you been given a novelty tea towel that you're never going to use because it is just a novelty tea towel and isn't in fact very good at absorbing water? But perhaps the back of that could be harnessed for something like this and repurposed rather than wasted. Or do you have an old pillowcase that perhaps could be used? And if not a pillowcase, then, have you got any, perhaps an old shirt that's been damaged in some way and you don't think that you can repair it? Perhaps, the back panel of that could become what you make up your bauble with. So just moving on to my next colour. This nice electric blue. I've gone for really strong colours today. I'm not messing around with this one. Straight in there. And you can already see the weight difference between the 3 strands of the green to the 2 strands of the blue. Today's quite an exciting day for us at the London Embroidery School, because not only is it day 1 of the Tree Bauble PDF for people to start stitching, it's also day 1 for our advent calendar, like a London Embroidery School advent calendar, the kind of physical item. They sold really well this year, and so thank you so much to anyone who has bought one. I hope you are enjoying the contents, and if you haven't already seen it, there is a story up on our Instagram which shows you what inside bag number 1. We will be doing that each day of Advent in the run up to Christmas, so do pop back each day to see what was in each of the bags if you didn't purchase one yourself. And if you did purchase one yourself, we'd really love to know what you're going to go on to make with the contents of your advent calendar. Because there's lots and lots of goodies in there. It's a combination of equipment and materials, as well as a couple of project pieces for you to explore as you wish. So it's a wonderful way to add to your own embroidery box stocks. And try out some new things. The calendar itself is also fully reusable because it's made of wooden sticks with linen effect bags. So each, once you've actually opened this year's bags, you could very well refill it and enjoy it another year. Could you refill it with candles or stationery, or you could go for the classic chocolates and things like that. Of course you could, but I feel like there are some other options there for us to explore too. We're all creative people. I think a little bit of creative thinking and you can come up with something really fun and interesting to fill your advent calendar with for a future year and use it again and again. So my stitching seems to be coming along pretty well. What are your plans for this Christmas? Are you staying home? Are you visiting people? Have you thought that far ahead? As the time is very much upon us now that we're into December. I'm going to be with my immediate family, which is always fun. and not that unusual for me. So it should be, quite a familiar Christmas. For me, let me know what you think you're going to be doing. Is it going to be featuring any stitching? Oh, also today, as it is the first of the month, we released our Student of the Month from last month. And so that is also up on our stories if you want to check that out. It is one of our gold work pieces that won it this month. But what's really fun is that with that piece, Leslie, the lady who made it, actually also won another competition, which was her local county fair. She entered it into one of the prize draws there and won for her category. So it's a double winner by our standards. And as you'll see from the photo, she really did make a wonderful job of it. Because we're all such visual people as embroiderers, we really do just love to see how you get on with your pieces, what you go on to do with them, what you found tricky, what you enjoyed the most, what surprised you. Hearing those bits and seeing the outcomes really help us. They really spur us on with trying to find new and interesting ways to bring embroidery to you guys. So if you ever do fancy sharing what you've been making and how you've been getting along with it, then I can't tell you the immense pleasure and sense of satisfaction that we in the studio get from seeing your pieces and hearing your thoughts on them. So I'm just going to leave that thread there to one side. I need another 2 strands. I'm just going to gently separate. There we go. That is the blooming into the eye needle threading technique I used there, and a quick knot, both of which we have pro tips on, as I mentioned, on our YouTube channel. So if you want to find out how to do those, have a little look over there. There's lots and lots of good stuff to hopefully help you along in your stitching journey, to perhaps level you up a little bit. If you're working on a big piece and you need to make a knot each time, if you can speed up on your knot making, it will eventually, gain you back quite a lot of time. So learning to do quick knots can be a real time saver. And also just to make the process of embroidery even more pleasurable. If that's a little bit of a sticking point for you, if you find threading up the needle tricky, and that might start to put you off from picking up the embroidery piece in the first place. But if we can show you a slightly easier way to thread up, then hopefully that makes the whole process more pleasurable. I have been really blown away with the amount of people that have decided to take up the challenge of making the bauble this year. It's been going really, really well, and it's just been so lovely to see how many of you want to make baubles of your own. So much so, I am in the process of developing something similar, but not quite the same for next year. And so I am already looking forward to, number 1, finishing that, and then number 2, sharing it with you. It's not a Christmas product, so you won't have to wait a whole year for us to release this other one that I am now talking about. So you'll have to stay posted for that one. And as always, if you want to be the first to know when we are releasing a new product and have first access to the stocks, then do think about joining our mailing list. You will find that at the bottom of our homepage. And that will add you to our email mailing list, which we email you about once a week. Not very much more than that, only if there's like a sale, for example, might we email you, say, twice a week max. And then, we give you early access to new products and we tell you about things that are going on, just generally keep you that little bit more in the loop. Okay, so ready to move on to the final colour. Let's start at the top this time. Moving on to this orange. I'm down to one strand now. I've also dropped down my choice of needle. I've gone down to a size 10, which is quite a fine needle, but as I say, when you get comfortable with your threading method of the various choices that are on our YouTube channel Pro Tips, threading up small needles doesn't have to be quite the sticking point that it can be for quite a few people. So really punchy colours, as you can see. Not terribly traditional, but I thought it'd be good to give you a little bit of variety. That it doesn't have to be traditional by any means. You can do this absolutely your own way. Do feel free to pop any comments or questions you have into the comments box down the bottom. I'm more than happy to answer any embroidery questions you might have. Doesn't have to be about this product by any means, can just be about embroidery in general. I'd also be curious to know if you've got any thoughts about what you'd like to see from us for next year. Is there anything in particular you're burning to learn that we don't currently offer? If there's anything like that, do let us know. And if it's within our abilities, we will endeavour to bring it to you. Because I tend to think if you're interested in learning it, there's definitely going to be other people that are also interested in learning it. You will also probably notice that, you can't see one of my hands because it permanently stays underneath the hoop, because I stitch with both hands, sort of passing the needle between the two hands on the upper and lower side of the frame, rather than having the hand travel around the frame, which is another pro tip you will find on our YouTube channel. It's one of those things that you'll reach a point with your stitching that you kind of can't go much further without progressing into using both hands for stitching. And so it just gives you some thoughts about how you might start to make that transition. Because like with most things with embroidery, it is very much about practice. But a few pointers to get you started off never hurt anybody either. If you particularly enjoy chatting about embroidery, and are looking for other like-minded people, you might also enjoy our Facebook group. You will find that on Facebook, London Embroidery School Club. And so if you fancy joining us over there, do pop in an acceptance request and we will get back to you. And on the board over there, you can then obviously chat with the other members of the club on all things embroidery related, as well as us being able to share some exclusive offers and things over there with you guys. So not very long to go with this. I need to also put a bottom into the pot there. Don't let me forget about that bit, because I think that will be easily forgotten. My mind will wander with me nattering away to you guys. Are you feeling inspired? Have you already signed up to do one of these, or are you now thinking about it? And when do you put up your Christmas tree? Is it already up? Or are you thinking about it this weekend? Or are you like me? I'm going to be doing mine, I think, next weekend, which I am pretty excited about. It's like all of a sudden I feel like I've got into the spirit of it and I'm ready. Though I do need to do some more gift buying. Haven't been terribly organised with that this year, so I better get on that soon, because I don't like it to become a stress. I want to enjoy it. Something about, prepare to fail if you fail to prepare, or something like that. I feel like that's kind of like what I live by. However, I haven't really applied that to Christmas, so I think I really should get on that. Okay, so just two little squares more and down the bottom. I think we'll do down the bottom in this orange. That's quite nice. Let's go for this as the base. Hope you can see all of this clearly enough. Caddy Williams 1 says December 1st means Christmas music. It most certainly does. If there was anything to give you the feels, I always think it is music. And so a little bit of Christmas music will certainly make the difference. Okay, I think I'm going to switch back to my blue for the centermost part, but I'm going to stick with one strand. So let's leave the rest of that thread over here. Another little quick knot in the end. You don't have to worry too much about the back of this particular design, because it is going to be made into a 3D bauble and this will all become the inside of the bauble. No one will ever see it. Hence why I'm happy to leave my knots on the inside there. I would usually say that doing stab stitches to begin each thread and cutting off the knot from the surface of the fabric rather than the underside would be a superior way to finish your embroidery. But as this is, a project that is definitely open for absolute beginners, but also because it will never get seen, once you are finished, you might as well just go with whatever you feel is best in the moment. So cute. We're definitely into the last few stitches of this design. So if you do have any questions, let me know. It's lovely to have had so many of you join us during the course of this stitch along. Hope there's been a little something new for each of you to pick up on. You can see my stitches are pretty small at the moment, really getting into the finer details of this first tree. I will come back in and finish off the back of all of the threads that I've pulled through just the surface whilst I'm working on it. Rumpel Kate Skin says, what is the base fabric here? It is a polycotton blend that I had left over. This was in fact a pillowcase in a former life, but now it's going to be a Christmas bauble. So I literally just cut the sides of it open and used it for its fabric. So there we go. That is the first Christmas tree of the bauble finished. I hope you've enjoyed stitching along with me today. If I missed any of your questions and you'd like me to answer them, if I didn't see it because I was stitching, do feel free to direct message us if there's anything that you'd like to know or want any more details of, or just generally would like to say to us. Otherwise, that's all from me for today. So yes, happy 1st of December. Have fun, stay safe, and keep making beautiful things. Bye for now.